Hey, what's up, guys? Max here once again, of course, and it's been a crazy market as of late. Opportunities left and right. Hopefully, you guys have been able to take advantage of what an amazing couple weeks it's been. And of course, it's a double-edged sword. If you're on the right side of things, you've been making a ton of money. If you're on the wrong side of things, you got punished pretty severely. So definitely, it's a very important market to when you're wrong. Definitely make sure you cut your losses fast, and when you're on the right side of things, just keep trying and until it stops working, so that way you can maximize your profits. But other than that, man, it's been absolutely amazing, considering the fact that we haven't had this kind of action in a while. So it's really good to see lots of opportunities, and hopefully we get more of these to come. So, quick review of today. So, pretty much the big trade for me today is the FGN, as it was yesterday as well. Um, Thought this thing had a chance of making a move toward 14s. If you look at the daily chart, there was a possibility of it reaching 14, which is the bottom of this little support that could have acted as resistance, but didn't quite get there. It went up to 1278 pre-market and started fading. Usually when I see this kind of action, of course most people would just assume that this thing is gonna have a very bearish open. But if you look at the action on ZFGN yesterday, it did spike up parabolically, and then it started to drop with the lower highs and lower lows, just to rip all of these shorts. Whoever was in here, they ripped them a new number here. It went from obviously from sevens to almost 12 yesterday. So I didn't really make that assumption with an automatic short bias, because I saw this thing start to fade off pre-market. Because like I said, yesterday it did the same thing, and it did it for a good 2 hours plus. Straight fades. Everyone thinking this is going to be another one of those gap and crapper kind of stocks, and yeah, they were dead wrong, and we got a really nice move to the upside as a result. So today I didn't make that assumption. So I actually decided to long the dip, and I got in somewhere around here of 11:30, 11:40. This is a pre-market support where this move started. So I went against that level, and didn't work out. Started tanking. Noticed on the tape, the level 2, that there was a hidden seller that kept refreshing the ass every time this thing tried to spike back up. It got slammed right back down. So I immediately cut my losses on the long side. Like I said, going on with the theme with being wrong and admitting that you're wrong, and getting out of it fast, and switching biases. So I instead of holding on to my long and bag holding it like maybe something that I would used to have done, averaging down and end up with a massive loss. I cut the loss. It was a pretty bad hit. 3,500 bucks. Nobody likes to lose 3,500 bucks, but had to be done because it could have potentially been a $10,000, $15,000 loss if I held on to it. So I cut it. Went short around 10:20 something. So basically, I got out, bailed my long on this candle. Tried to wait for this pop. Kind of missed it by a couple cents, but I got in at about 11:20 average. And then I pretty much told myself, okay, I'm going to see how it behaves around 11, which is that whole number, psychological whole number. And if it just blows right through it, I'm going to hold it until I see some bottoming action on the level 2 and on the chart. So it blew right through 11s, as you see indicated on this candle right here. It went from this candle 11.14 down to 10.6 in one candle on 590,000 shares. And I was pretty much very comfortable, feeling very comfortable to hold this thing until I saw any sort of reversal. I had about 10,000 shares or so, so it was pretty big size. But because of that 11 crack, and it pretty much just blew right through it without thinking twice, I was pretty confident that I would be able to hold this safely without it going against me. So I ended up covering around 10:58 or something. Could have probably held it for a little bit longer, but at the time it looked like it was going to bounce off of 10:50s. So, all in all, it was a pretty sweet trade. Made about, initially, I think it was a $7,200 gain on just that trade in just a matter of minutes. and scalped it a couple more times. Added about I did lose on one trade, and about a couple $100, and then I made back 11 or $1,200 on the next trade. So overall, I made $8,100 on the short side, and then the $3,500 loss. So sweet gains overall on ZFGN. Made about 5K on it yesterday. So pretty solid stock, paid out very well, and hopefully we get more of these to come. Trove, TROV, is a stock that I'm going to be watching tomorrow. I didn't trade it today because the opening volume was only 70,000 shares, and that's not exactly the volume criteria that I would look for in a stock. So I pretty much ignored it, but I did keep an eye on it when I saw that it had some staying power and kept making higher lows, made new highs here. So this thing did go from 370s up to 450s, and then it consolidated on pretty much no volume, next to no volume, and then it made a higher consolidation level here in the 430s, and then a huge blow off top breakout, and consolidated again higher, another little pop, consolidated higher lows. So textbook staircase pattern here to the upside, and this stock is definitely a good watch for tomorrow. I'm going to be looking for obviously more volume as this thing trades on 70,000 shares at the open again tomorrow. Most likely not going to trade it. If I do, it won't be anything substantial. I'm probably just going to do like 500 or 1,000 shares or something, or for a quick couple $100. But hopefully it trapped a lot of shorts, which could result in a lot of volume coming out of the open, especially if this thing decides to gap up a lot. So hopefully tomorrow this thing trades north of 200, 300,000 shares, or the more the better, basically. So what I'm looking for on this stock, TROV, is basically any gap above 6. Look for a move towards 7 on the long side, and then look for a move move towards 7. If it's a parabolic pop towards 7 really fast, 720s, 750s, I would look for a short in those areas. But you never know. This thing could gap over 7 and then run to 850, 9s, 10s, who knows. So we're just going to have to play it by ear and see what it has to offer tomorrow. But basically, if it gaps over 6, I would probably look for a washout back towards 6 for a run towards 7. If it gaps over 7, look for a washout below 7 for a move toward 850. Or if it gaps up already really close to the resistance level and spikes first initially, I might look for a short. So if it gaps up, say, around 680, 690, and it opens and runs to like 740 or something, I'd probably look for a short against 750. So we'll play it by ear, see what happens tomorrow. Again, the volume is going to be key. Good volume today. The stock has never had this large of a volume day. I would imagine that it would follow with another nice volume day tomorrow as well. And also important to note that every single time in recent history, TROV, after a big green candle, it's typically followed with a red candle. So just something to throw out there. I'm not saying that tomorrow will be a red day, but I think tomorrow, you always have to use the chart history to kind of gauge the future of the stock and how it behaves later on. So if the chart history is any good indicator of what this thing is going to do tomorrow, I think this thing might gap, do a quick pop, and fade. But like I said, we'll play it by ear. It might end up being a good long, who knows. As the FGN definitely kind of faked me out yesterday. Didn't think this thing would have this much power. So you never know. So we'll play it by ear. Hopefully there'll be a good trade on this volume. Definitely key. So TROV, just want to talk a little bit about its share structure really fast. 35.5% institution owned. Looking at finviz.com, by the way. Great website for some quick information. That's kind of in the gray area. I usually kind of make the decision whether or not to treat a stock as a highly institution owned stock when it's over 50% owned, but 35% kind of a gray area. But definitely it showed some elements of an institution owned stock, some manipulation here, as it didn't have any substantial pullbacks on the way up. Probably a lot of bid propping here. I didn't watch this thing the whole day, but I would imagine that some bids would prop this up every single time it tried to tank. So the shorts kept getting caught on these moves every time they try to add. And so that's a typical market maker manipulative game that you would typically see on a stock that has a lot of institutions on it. Float on this thing, about 26.91 million, 27 million shares outstanding, 29.71 million. So not exactly the lowest float, but pretty relatively speaking low. So this thing does potentially have the power to run towards sevens tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me with that kind of share structure. Okay, so that being said, we're gonna move on to the important topic that I want to talk about today, and this is gonna be the Madaz Mindset episode 3, and I'm gonna be talking about win streaks going on, how to manage them, how to not let them cloud your judgment, how to not have a false sense of security, have this overconfidence that you become invincible just because you are on a win streak. It's just as bad as if you revenge trade on a losing streak trying to make the money back. If you're on a big win streak, you decide to just do some really reckless trades just because you feel like you can't lose. In poker, they call this the winner's tilt. You can go on tilt when you lose, but you can also go on tilt when you win as well. So basically that just means that you're just making very irrational decisions based on your emotions rather than making a objective analysis of the situation. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some psychological points and provide some anecdotes as well from my personal trading, some mistakes I've made in the past, and hopefully this will help you guys understand that just because you're on a hot streak, which is great, and you're feeling good about yourself, you're on an emotional high, which is great. Everyone loves to feel happy. But nonetheless, you still have to concentrate and focus on the task at hand and understand the situation and not let your emotions, be it a positive emotion or a negative emotion, cloud your judgment in any way. So it's a very important concept, not exactly the most easy to understand. It's very abstract, it's very arbitrary, but we have to talk about it. I feel it's very important. That's why I'm talking about it today. Okay, so like I said, I've been on a pretty nice win streak, 6 green days in a row, ever since that really bad fat finger mistake. That really screwed up my mindset, and took a day off from posting on Twitter and stuff, and it worked wonders. Went on a 6-day win streak since. It's been my best 6 days in a while. I can't remember the last time, but I've made $27,000 in just 6 days. It's been unreal, and I've been trading very, very confidently, and I'm feeling really good about myself. Now, the key thing here is falling into that trap, that thinking that just because I'm on a roll, that means I'm going to continue to be on a roll. And it also, there's a trap that, if that key type of trade, maybe that niche setup, stops showing up, I start to try to find some makeup plays to match the previous day's gains, rather than analyzing that there are no available opportunities that would allow me or permit me to make similar gains. Okay, so that's a mistake that a lot of people would fall for. Definitely a mistake that I've fallen for in the past. So the key point here is you got to treat each trade, each day, each month, week, season, as independent events of each other. And the best example of that is if you flip a coin, you get 5 heads in a row. Does that mean that the 6th flip will be another head, or just because it's been 5 heads in a row? Or the flip side of that, pun unintended, is that just because there's 5 heads in a row, does that mean that it cannot possibly in any way be 6 head in a row, and therefore it must be tails? That's the flip side of that argument. And that's the argument that people that short front side of moves would normally rationalize. Stock's up 300%. There's no way that can go to 400%. So I'm just going to short it here because it's probably going to tank from being up 300%. No, that's not true at all. This is the other side of it. The winner's tilt, like I said, is if you are up 6 days in a row, does that necessarily mean that you will be up the 7th day in a row? And that is absolutely not true. And to a lesser extent, just because you've been averaging maybe like a $5,000 gain every single day, does that mean that your 7th day, even if you win, are you going to make $5,000? No, you might just make $500 because the niche setup that showed up the previous 6 days did not show up on the 7th day. Okay, that's a very, very important concept to understand. Like I said, you have to treat each trade, each day, each week, whatever, as independent events of each other. They're not related in any way. The coin toss example, the roulette wheel example. There's endless, more obvious examples that you can find in real world situations. But for whatever reason, in a trading situation, a lot of people have trouble making this, distinguishing this. So you gotta pretty much understand and analyze the situation as they're just completely different. They're not the same. They're not correlated in any way. Okay, yes, there are trends. There's hot sectors. Maybe, like, for example, the energy sector or the oil sector has been a nice short, but you never know when it's gonna bottom, and the short trade is gonna be gone, and you're gonna be stuck still in that short mindset, and you're gonna get caught in a long one day. It's gonna wipe out a week or a couple weeks or even a month worth of gains on one bad trade because you were on this emotional high, thinking that you can keep doing what you were doing and exposing yourself to massive risk, probably too. Going to a massive size, trying to match those gains in the past couple of days, and not, thinking with a clear mind that the trends have changed, the pattern has changed, because they're independent of each other. Okay, so very important to understand that, guys. Each trade's outcome does not have any bearing of the next. Okay, the previous trade doesn't affect the next trade. They're all independent events. Okay. And it's not always very easy to determine when the trend changes, when oil goes from being a short to a long. It's very difficult to pinpoint the exact moment. It's very arbitrary. So this is why it's very important to really just analyze the situation in the most, in the way that you would, like I said, just pretend like that those 5 wins that 6 consecutive winning days didn't happen. Each day is independent of each other. Just analyze it as it is. Be completely objective, and you'll be able to make more rational decisions as opposed to emotionally charged decisions. Okay, and this time, like I said, it's on a high instead of a low. Okay, if you're losing, people revenge trade to make the money back. But if you're winning, you want to keep winning, and you want to keep matching those or bettering those gains, and you're going to be exposing yourself to too much risk, going in with too much size, and that one day where that trade stops showing up, you're going to get smoked, and you're going to undo all that work you just did over the past couple days, weeks, months, and it's a very, very shitty feeling. Okay, and everyone knows that. Point 2, establish your rules, and I'm sure by now everyone has rules. If you don't have any rules, well, you really shouldn't be trading unless you have a set of rules. But definitely establish your rules and respect them. Okay, guys? A mistake that I used to do, especially when I had that huge huge month during the weed hype and the OTCs in 2013, was it? 2013, 2014, whatever it was. It was February, and I made $150,000 in that month. It was an unreal amount of money. I'd never made anywhere close to that. And in hindsight, now that I think about that situation, I was on a winner's tilt. I had an overconfidence, a false sense of security, into thinking that I could just keep making a boatload of money every single day, make 150 grand every single month, regardless of what I was trading. So after the weed hype kind of faded, and it was March, April, I carried on this now identified as an incorrect mindset into other plays, and I ventured into Nasdaq's more intensely for the first time, and it wasn't just the small cap stuff. I was trading stuff like Facebook, Apple, and I was going in with massive size because I was used to going in with massive size on the OTC stocks. I had no problems dropping $200,000 positions on OTCs because I was very confident with those, and I had a lot of conviction going in those trades. But the mistake was applying the OTC strategies into the big boards, and little did I know at that time the big boards were a completely different beast. I mean, Facebook and Apple are two of the most institutionally owned stocks out there. Everyone and their mother, their aunt, their dad, their grandmother, everyone. Everyone owns Apple. Everyone owns Facebook. Okay, and that means that these stocks are going to be highly manipulated. Okay, because they're going to be propped up by institutions. They're going all the dips are going to be snagged up because of value investors or whatever you want to call it. But basically, they're not going to trade the same way as some piece of crap OTC weed stock. And at the time, I didn't know that. So I started going in massive size on Facebook. Facebook was trading maybe like $40 a share or something at the time, 40, whatever it was. And I would go in with 10,000 share starters, and that's not a joke. That's $400,000, and I would scale in and hold maybe 30,000 shares of Facebook. So I'm going in with over $1 million on Facebook, and I was doing it like it was nothing. And I would deal with $9,000 swings, and I would treat it like it wasn't a big deal. And that was a really, really stupid thing to do. In hindsight, obviously, it's a learning experience. Something I wish I didn't have to go through, or else I would have a lot more money in my account. I would have to go back to see how much money I lost trying to apply OTC strategies onto stocks like Facebook and Apple. But overall, I was on a winner's tilt. I was just feeling like I was on top of the world. I couldn't lose, and I could go in and own the market the same way that I was able to do on my niche setups that no longer showed up, because the weed stocks were done. They weren't coming back. They haven't come back even to this day. And pretty much I needed to look for another type of play to get my fix. I needed to find something that will make me $5,000 a day. And I was forcing it. I was looking for something, and I was trying to do that on Facebook. And of course, little did I know, it didn't trade the same way as those weed stocks, and I got rightfully I got pretty much owned, wiped out, and rightfully so. Okay, definitely a well-deserved loss, and thankfully, I didn't completely blow up my account to zero. If I kept doing that, I didn't catch my mistake. It was a pretty strong possibility. So very scary thought, and it can happen to anyone, guys. So definitely, after you're on a killer win streak, time and time again, guys, I've seen so many people post big days, big weeks, big months, and they're on this high. They think they're invincible. They think they're gonna roll out there, and they're on like God mode, as they say in the video game world. And they just go out there and they think that they can do whatever they please, and that's not the case. Okay, the market is always right. So understand that the market will never adapt to you. You have to adapt with the market, and that was the huge dubious assumption. The huge dubious assumption that I made was assuming that everything would trade the same way, and that was not true at all. Okay, so don't dip yourselves into unfamiliar setups just because your niche setup stopped showing up. Analyze the situation, like I said. Understand how each type of stock trades. Size appropriately. Don't expose yourself to too much risk, and pretty much you just got to understand the situation as it is, guys. All right, last but not least, the third point, and I'm going to sound like a broken record for saying this because I pretty much mentioned it in almost every single video. Always take a break when needed. If you catch yourself falling into this trap of going on a winner's tilt or having dealing with this overconfidence effect or whatever you want to call it, okay? And if there's a specific term for this phenomena in the stock world, let me know, because I actually don't know what it is. I tried to ask it on Twitter, but I didn't really get any solid answers. But if there is a proper term for it, let me know, guys. But right now, I'm just going to call it the winner's tilt or overconfidence effect. Thanks to, I don't know who tweeted at me and told me that about the term overconfidence effect, but thank you to that person. I'm sorry I don't have your tweet pulled up here, but I got that term from somebody who answered my question. So thank you for that, whoever that was. But let's not digress here. So always take a break when needed. So it's not always the easiest thing in the world to catch yourself on a winner's tilt. Like I said, it's the same way that's really difficult to catch yourself going on making revenge trades after taking losses. So this is gotta be up to you and trusting your own abilities to gauge your situation, and it requires a very strong mentality to begin with, to not be stubborn and to admit that you're wrong, because obviously if you're catching yourself making a mistake, you're pretty much swallowing your pride at that moment and telling yourself, okay, yeah, I'm not doing something right here. I'm going to have to take a step back and reassess the situation and, try to analyze and come back and see if I can remedy this. And I have to take however long I need to come back and reset my mindset. And that's not the easiest thing to do. We all know that. We've all been there. So try your best to develop the right mindset, at least to be able to catch yourself in a winner's tilt. So if you're on a 6-day win streak, on the 7th day, you're expecting to make a big win at the open like you had been doing, like in my case, and you get smoked on the first trade, and then the next trade you try to make it back. You force another trade and then you lose again. I mean, chances are you're not gonna make it back on the third trade. You're not gonna find another trade where you're more likely to basically lose more than to make back your losses at that point. And I don't care how you justify it, that's gonna be true. It doesn't matter if you're able to make it back that one instance. In the long run, with a large enough sample size, there's a reason why people talk about this concept, and there's a reason why people make a big deal out of it, because they know that in the long run, people are going to lose. They're going to blow up if they keep attempting this kind of strategy, going on a winner's tilt and just exposing yourself to way too much risk without, basically you're exposing yourself to too much risk based on emotion and not rather making a conscious decision. So, like I said, just try to catch you making that mistake. Catch yourself taking that mistake. Just pretty much just try to understand. Okay, look, usually I'd be up right now, but I've made two or three bad losing trades in a row. Let's take a step away from the platform and let's talk about why. Okay, did I chase the move? Did I execute wrong? Did I go in too big? And analyze the situation, understand that, and come back, see if you can recover your mindset. And you come back, you lose again, you lose another couple of trades. Probably be in your best interest to just stop before you just give back all of your gains from your win streak. So, like I said, this is completely up to you and your ability to trust yourself and your abilities to assess your own situation in the most objective way possible. Just don't lie to yourself. It's in your best interest to be truthful and swallow your pride if you have to, because that's going to save your trading career. All right, guys. So that being said, hopefully that helps. I know it's a very abstract, it's a very arbitrary concept, but I feel like it's very important for everyone to understand that just because you're winning a lot doesn't mean you're going to keep winning. Doesn't mean that everything is always going to stay the same forever. Markets are cyclical. There's going to be periods of the market where it's hot, everything's easy, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything disappears. You can't pinpoint exactly that exact moment when the market goes from being hot to really cold, and you're going to start implementing the same strategies, and you're going to get smoked, and you're not going to know what hit you. So it's in your best interest, like I said, to treat every single day, every single trade, independent events of each other, analyze the situation objectively. Okay, guys, they're not every single trade. They're different. They're not correlated. They don't have any bearing on the next trade. And if you guys adhere to these 3 points that I pointed out, I'm sure that it will prevent some, if not most, hopefully, major blowups as a result from going on a winner's tilt in the future. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you guys next time.